Welcome everyone to Whimsy Woven Stories. Here, we explore gripping tales of real-life twists. Join our storytelling community.
I want to make you my special assistant. That's what she said. My name's Liam. I was 41, grinding through 12-hour days at Velthorn Global for 7 long years. Senior Operations Analyst, Division 3. I kept the numbers tight, the processes smooth, and my mouth shut. That was the unspoken agreement. But the moment I sat across from Clarissa Wind in her glass office that Tuesday morning, watching her flash that predatory smile, I knew the rules had just changed. She leaned back in her fancy executive chair, fingers tapping her mahogany desk like she was playing some private game. "It comes with extra duties," she said, her voice dipping low. "Discretion. Loyalty. You know what I mean." I didn't flinch. 7 years in corporate America had taught me how to read between the lines. But this wasn't subtle. This was a proposition dressed up as a promotion. An offer made by a woman who thought her corner office gave her the right to treat people like property. Clarissa had been promoted to VP of Business Strategy just 6 months ago. Everyone called her fresh blood. She was 38, sharp as hell, and rising fast. The board adored her cost-cutting tactics. The shareholders worshipped her quarterly numbers. But I'd started noticing things. The way she hovered around my desk during morning rounds. How our quarterly reviews suddenly happened over wine at high-end restaurants. Last month, she invited me to a leadership retreat in Asheville. I turned it down, said I had family plans. The look she gave me, like she wasn't used to hearing no. And now here we were. "Think about it, Liam," she said, smoothing her skirt as she stood. "Opportunities like this don't come often, especially for someone at your level." That pause before level. It was deliberate. A reminder that in her eyes, I was replaceable. I stood, adjusted my tie. "I appreciate the offer, but I'll have to decline." Her smile faltered, just for a second. "Excuse me," she asked. "I'm here to work," I said calmly. "Not whatever this is." The room went ice cold. For a split second, her polished mask slipped. What I saw underneath, pure entitlement and disbelief. No one had ever said no to her before. "I see," she said slowly. "Well, Liam, maybe you should reconsider your priorities. This company rewards team players. People who understand how business really works." I nodded once and headed for the door. Her voice followed me. "Real men know how to seize opportunities." I didn't look back. Just walked out, shut the door behind me, and went straight to my desk. But something cold had settled deep in my stomach. This wasn't over. I built my career on clean work, quiet professionalism, and zero drama. While others played politics or kissed up, I delivered results. Velthorn Global handled logistics across the Southeast, and I'd started as a junior analyst right out of college, earned every step. My ex-wife used to say I was married to my spreadsheets. Maybe she was right. After our divorce 3 years ago, work became everything. My daughter Chloe lives with her mom in Raleigh. Weekends with her were the only things that mattered. The rest, it was just keeping the machine running. Clarissa's behavior had started small. A compliment in front of the team. Her hand lingering a second too long on my shoulder. Sitting too close during presentations. Coffee meetings that felt more like dates. Company dinners where we talked more about her personal life than supply chains. Then came the late-night texts. Unusual subject lines and emails. Oddly personal calendar invites. I started saving everything. Screenshots, emails, meeting notes. Maybe it was instinct. Or maybe I already knew. Yesterday made everything crystal clear. She called me into her office to talk about the Henderson account. But when I walked in, she was wearing a dress better suited for a nightclub than a boardroom. She kept steering the conversation off topic. Asked about my dating life. My weekend plans. "You know, Liam," she said, leaning in, "successful partnerships require trust, intimacy, understanding what each other really needs." I dodged, shifted the conversation back to logistics, and got out of there fast. So today, when she dropped the special assistant act, I wasn't surprised. But I was done playing her game. After turning her down, I opened my secure folder and started organizing the evidence I've been collecting. It was all there. Then the pattern was uglier than I thought. 90 minutes later, HR showed up. Sandra from HR didn't look me in the eye as she handed me the envelope. Effective immediately, the letter read, "Due to insubordination and failure to align with company values, your employment with Velthorn Global is terminated." I had been pushed out, but not silenced, because I wasn't going to let this go. "Please gather your personal belongings and report to security for an escort off the premises." I read the line twice, then looked up at Sandra. She looked like someone who'd just been told to put down a puppy. "This has to be a mistake," I said, my voice low. "I'm sorry, Liam," she replied, wringing her hands. It came from the executive level. "I don't have any more details." 5 minutes later, security was standing by my desk. 2 guys I'd passed 100 times in the lobby, now treating me like I'd stolen office property, or worse. I could feel eyes on me. Co-workers whispering behind computer monitors and half-raised coffee mugs, pretending to work while watching the show. I quietly packed up my few personal things. My coffee mug, a photo of Chloe, my backup phone charger. One guard stood over me, the other filling out a form like I was some asset being decommissioned. The whole thing took maybe 10 minutes. As they walked me out through the lobby, I spotted Clarissa near the elevators, chatting with another executive. But her eyes were locked on mine. When our eyes met, she didn't flinch. She smiled. Not warm. Not apologetic. Triumphant. Real men know how to seize opportunities, she'd said. Now I knew exactly what she meant. This wasn't just retaliation, it was a warning. Submit or be crushed. Fall in line or vanish. I didn't say a word. Didn't beg, didn't argue, didn't make a scene. I just kept walking. Made it to the parking garage, climbed into my Honda, and sat there. 4 or 5 full minutes, I let it all hit me. 7 years of hard work, gone. My professional reputation, possibly trashed. My ability to support my daughter, shaken. And for what? Because I had the nerve to say no. But as I pulled out into Charlotte traffic, something started to shift. The shock was wearing off, replaced by something colder. Sharper. Clarissa had made a big mistake. She thought I was weak. Replaceable. Just another quiet worker who'd slink away in shame. She was dead wrong. What she didn't know. I'd been documenting everything, without even realizing it. Screenshots, emails, meeting summaries, voice recordings I'd meant to delete but hadn't gotten around to. All those little habits of mine, the need to organize, to protect myself, to have backup, had turned into a bulletproof trail of receipts. The moment I got home, I went straight to my home office. Pulled out my encrypted backup drive. And there it all was. Dates, times, witnesses. A clear pattern of inappropriate behavior that would make any HR department panic. I cracked open a beer, opened my laptop, and got to work. If Clarissa wanted a power struggle, fine. She picked the wrong target. I spent the weekend treating this like a quarterly report. Detailed, methodical, zero emotion, just facts. By Sunday night, I had a 6-month timeline of everything. 37 text messages with inappropriate undertones. 14 emails full of suggestive corporate speak. Audio recordings from 3 separate meetings where she crossed serious lines. And the crown jewel? A voicemail from last month. She'd call me at home on a Friday night, supposedly about the Peterson contract. But 15 minutes in, and a few glasses of wine deep, her tone shifted. I take care of people who take care of me, Liam, she said, her voice slurring slightly. Career growth, raises, prime projects, whatever helps your resume. All you need to do is understand what I really need. I had saved it on instinct. Something about her tone that night didn't sit right. No, I was damn glad I did. Because that voice memo, that was my insurance policy. And Clarissa Wind was about to learn what real damage control looked like. On Monday morning, I called Velthorn Global's employee hotline and requested a meeting with the compliance department. They slotted me in for Wednesday afternoon with Jessica Barnes, their senior compliance officer. I showed up early, dressed in my best suit, carrying a folder so thick it could stop traffic. Jessica was polite, professional, but cautious. Big companies hate wrongful termination claims. Add sexual harassment allegations to the mix. That's a legal grenade. I understand you have some concerns about your recent dismissal, she said, settling in behind her desk. More than just concerns, I replied, sliding the folder across to her. I have evidence. Over the next hour, I laid it all out. The inappropriate behavior, the not-so-subtle quid pro quo, the retaliation after I refused her advances. Jessica took notes, asked a few sharp questions, and kept that neutral HR expression nailed down like a courtroom poker face. But when I played the audio clip of Clarissa outlining what she expected from her special assistants, Jessica actually winced. This is extensive, she finally said. I'll need to run all this by our legal team. You'll hear back from us within the week. I left that meeting cautiously optimistic. The proof was solid. The company would have to act. Right? 3 days later, Jessica called back, and what she said made my stomach drop. After reviewing your materials, we concluded that your termination was justified based on performance issues that predate the incidents you mentioned, she said in a cold, corporate tone. While we recognize your concerns regarding Mr. Wynn's management style, we found no evidence of policy violations. Management style? I repeated, stunned. Did you even listen to the recordings? We conducted a thorough internal review. Mr. Wynn categorically denied your allegations and submitted documentation outlining a history of insubordination and behavioral issues. Multiple colleagues confirmed you were resistant to feedback and difficult to work with. It felt like the floor dropped out from under me. What colleagues? I asked. I can't provide names, she replied. But the consensus was clear. Your termination stands. I sat there in my kitchen, phone still in hand, staring at the wall. Clarissa hadn't just fired me. She'd strategically sabotaged me, built a paper trail, coached people into giving statements, maybe even threatened them. How far had she gone? I called Derek, my old cubicle neighbor. We'd worked together for 4 years. I figured he owed me some honesty. Look, man, he said awkwardly. I really can't talk about this. Company policy and all, but maybe it's best to move on. Start fresh. Derek, what did she tell you? I asked. Long pause. Just that you were having some issues, an attitude problem. She said you made inappropriate comments about female employees. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, numb. It all clicked. She didn't just retaliate, she poisoned the well so nobody would believe me if I pushed back. Smart. Ruthless. Exactly what I should have expected from someone who clawed their way to VP before 40. But she made one crucial mistake. She thought I'd give up. That I was just another corporate middle manager who'd quietly fade away. She didn't know me. That night, I did something I'd never done before. I hired a private investigator. Marcus Thompson ran a boutique agency that handled everything from divorce cases to corporate espionage. Former detective, mid-50s, calm like someone who'd seen it all. We met at a coffee shop downtown. This woman torched my career in a single afternoon. I told him, I want to know exactly who I'm dealing with. He quoted me a fee that made my wallet hurt. I paid it anyway. This wasn't about getting my job back. This was about truth. Understanding how deep the rot went. Give me 2 weeks, Marcus said. Let's see what I can dig up. While he worked his angles, I ran my own. Late-night Google rabbit holes. LinkedIn timelines. Public records requests. What I found shook me more than her original proposition. Clarissa hadn't been at Velthorn Global very long, but her rise was lightning fast. Hired as senior manager 18 months ago. Promoted to director after 6 months. Promoted again to VP 6 months after that. Each promotion happened right after one of her potential rivals mysteriously resigned or was demoted. Thomas Reed, director of strategic planning, left for personal reasons before her first promotion. Now working at a much smaller firm in Jacksonville for less pay. Patricia Ongwin, top pick for VP, resigned to explore other opportunities 2 weeks before Clarissa got the role. She's now unemployed. Kevin Walsh, a 12-year veteran, was let go for performance issues 3 months ago. Still jobless. The pattern was obvious. Clarissa didn't climb the ladder, she cleared it. Then Marcus called. Your boss has been busy, he said. I found a trail of former employers. 3 companies. Same exact pattern, rapid promotions followed by wrongful termination disputes. And NDAs, he added. At least 6 in the last decade. Always male employees. Always sealed settlements. Marcus even found 2 former victims willing to talk off the record. Both stories were chillingly similar. Flirtation. Promises. Pressure. Retaliation. Termination. The scary part, Marcus said, is how smart she is. She starts documenting fake performance issues months in advance. By the time she strikes, the legal framework is airtight. How's she getting away with this? I asked. Money. Influence. And companies that would rather pay hush money than face a scandal. She targets mid-level guys with kids, mortgages, people who can't afford to fight back. That night, I stared at the ceiling. This wasn't just a hostile work environment. This was a predator. A calculated, systematic predator who used corporate structures to destroy people. And no one was stopping her. Because everyone stayed silent. Because the system was built to protect people like her. But systems can be broken. Patterns can be exposed. Predators can fall. I just had to be smarter than every person who would try before me. The next morning, I made 3 calls. First, I called Thomas Reed in Jacksonville. It took some convincing, but he agreed to meet. His hands shook as he stirred his coffee. She ruins lives for sport, he said. I tried to fight. Spent 15 grand on lawyers. Got nowhere. The company had fake documentation going back months. What if we teamed up? I asked. He shook his head. I signed an NDA. Can't be involved officially. Then he slid a flash drive across the table. I can't stop you from finding things on your own. Second, I called Patricia Ongwin. She was cautious but agreed to a phone call. Same story. Flirtation. Threats. Sabotage. Career wrecked. She's protected, Patricia said. Connections. Lawyers. And she's careful. She targets people who can't hit back. What if we change that? I asked. How? By making it more expensive to protect her than to expose her. Third, I called Rebecca Foster, an investigative journalist from the Charlotte Observer. She's known for exposing workplace abuse and corporate fraud. When I told her what I had, she didn't even hesitate. This is exactly the kind of story we go after, Rebecca said. But I'll need multiple sources and bulletproof documentation. I smiled. Good news. I've got both. I told Rebecca I could provide both sources and solid documentation. Anonymous tips won't cut it, she said. I need people willing to go on record. Give me 2 weeks. That afternoon, I started building a coalition. Marcus had already identified 8 possible victims from Clarissa's previous jobs. Some were locked under NDAs. Others were just too scared to speak up. But a few were angry enough to take a risk. The breakthrough came when I connected with David Brooks, a former Velthorn Global employee who had been terminated 6 months before I even joined. Clarissa had been a manager back then, not yet a VP, and apparently she'd gone sloppy. I documented everything, David said during a secure call. Recordings, emails, witnesses. I was ready to sue, but my lawyer warned me. They'd drag it out for years and bleed me dry. What if cost wasn't an issue? What do you mean? I'm organizing a group, multiple victims, media exposure, coordinated response. Enough heat to force the company to act. David was quiet for a long time. Then he asked, "You really think we can take her down? I think we can make silence cost more than speaking up." By the end of that week, I had 4 men ready to go on record. Thomas Reed, while still bound by an NDA, handed over key background files. Patricia Gwynn agreed to speak anonymously. Marcus uncovered financial inconsistencies in Clarissa's expense reports, possible ethics violations that went beyond harassment. And more importantly, I figured out Clarissa's fatal flaw. She thrived in the shadows, picking off isolated targets who couldn't defend themselves. But she had never faced a coordinated resistance. She had never been met with victims who refused to disappear. Rebecca's editor approved the series. 3 explosive articles, released one after the other, designed to turn corporate heat into a wildfire. "This is going to get ugly," Rebecca warned me. "She'll come after you. Try to trash your name. You ready for that?" I thought about my daughter, about the men she'd crushed, about the ones we might still save. Let her try. I've got nothing left to lose. The first article dropped on a Tuesday morning. Corporate predator, how a rising executive abused her power. 4 victims on record. Backed by emails, recordings, documented retaliation across 3 companies. Financial irregularities. A clear pattern of corporate complicity. By noon, it was trending everywhere. By 2 p.m., Velthorn Global's stock had dropped 12%. Their phones were flooded with calls from reporters, investors, and advocacy groups. I watched it all unfold from my kitchen, phone in hand, newsfeed updating by the minute. On Wednesday, the second article hit. The cover-up, how companies protect workplace abusers. It zeroed in on Velthorn Global's response, fake performance reviews, silencing NDAs, and a culture built to protect predators, not employees. That afternoon, Clarissa's LinkedIn profile vanished. By Thursday, the company announced she'd been placed on administrative leave, pending internal review. Friday's piece was the most powerful. Breaking the silence, victims speak out. It featured in-depth interviews, personal stories, and the emotional toll her abuse had taken. That evening, Rebecca texted me. "Emergency board meeting this weekend. Sources say her termination is inevitable." Sure enough, Sunday afternoon Velthorn Global issued a terse press release. Following a comprehensive internal investigation, Clarissa Wynn has been terminated for violations of corporate conduct policy. Velthorn Global remains committed to fostering a safe and professional environment. No apology. No acknowledgement of the men she hurt. But it was a start. Marcus called me that night with more updates. 2 of her former employers were reopening old cases. Legal teams were scrambling. The phrase liability nightmare kept popping up in his report. I cracked open a beer and stepped onto my porch. Charlotte's skyline shimmered in the distance. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of peace. 3 weeks later, I got a call from Henderson Industries, a logistics company out of Raleigh. They had read the story. They wanted someone like me. "We need someone who understands the importance of documentation, who believes in ethical practices," the hiring manager said. The salary? 40% higher than what I earned at Velthorn. Benefits included legal protection and whistleblower coverage. I accepted on the spot. That weekend, I drove to Raleigh to pick up my daughter Chloe for our monthly father-daughter day. She was waiting on the porch, backpack slung over her shoulder, gap-toothed smile lighting up her face. "Mom said you got a new job," she said excitedly as we drove off. "Is it a good one?" I smiled. "Yes, sweetheart. It's a good one." We spent the day at the Science Museum, walking through exhibits about space and dinosaurs. Just normal and perfect. The kind of day that reminded me why I fought. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. "Thank you. You gave me the courage to speak up." A friend. In the months that followed, 6 more men reached out. Different companies. Similar stories. Some filed formal complaints. Others found better jobs. But all of them said the same thing. They finally felt seen. I kept working. I kept documenting. I kept building the kind of life predators like Clarissa couldn't touch. And every morning, as I drove into my new office, I reminded myself, sometimes the best revenge isn't winning. It's refusing to stay quiet. Some battles are worth the war, especially the ones you're told you can't win. Dear all, please like, comment, and subscribe.
Thanks for listening. Share your opinion in comment section and also do like and subscribe to the channel.